Hello and welcome back to the On The Burst podcast. I'm your coach, Brandon Savage, and I'm joined by my assistant coach, Timmy Moody. What's going on, Timmy?
Hey, that's Brian Tottle's new pose. I like it. I'm just taking...
You know, to the audio listeners, that's not energetic at all. That's not energetic at all. Come on, we've swapped sides for this purpose to get the energy vibes going on your side.
No, your cord's just closer to the wall or something. That's the real reason. Don't lie to the viewers. But, yep.
Oh, no, I did record it. Don't worry.
Yeah, look, as a Blues fan, it's still hard. It's less than a week from last week. It's tough to sort of be completely bouncing off the wall. Once I think it's going to go to Melbourne in a couple of weeks and just absolutely smashes 13 on 13, might be in a better mood.
Yeah. We'll talk about Origin. Last week we uploaded our Origin preview, and because we were left at the studio by ourselves, we turned off the computers before they got a chance to upload the audio, so I didn't get it up in time if you didn't notice.
Oh, I didn't, but I thought it was just due to Origin or business,
it didn't get up on time, unfortunately, so I really apologise. That was... we had a comment on YouTube which hit at the heartstrings a bit. YouTube comments don't hit at me, but he's like... This guy said, that's really poor quality. I love your stuff, but uploading something after it's happened is just not good enough.
Oh, I did notice it came up after the fact, which is kind of like, what's the point of watching? Yeah.
I agree, but I also, in the YouTube description and on the audio platform, I prefaced it with it, and I said, we've still got our tips in there. We've still got some games. There is a bit of an Origin preview, so it's quite funny to listen back to how wrong our predictions were. Because they were pretty wrong, because I think my first try scorer was Joseph Suoli'i. Yep. We know how that ended up. Yeah. We'll talk about it very shortly. But, yeah, apologies for that late upload. That was my fuck-up, guys. We were left here by ourselves, and we were quite happy with that, because when we're left here by ourselves, we got more time to record and just not have to rush. But then we fucked up on our behalf. But, yeah, week of footy, pretty good. I got a story for today, actually. It was a story that came up today. I was leaving work. I was working at a jail around Maroubra. I guess that doesn't really... that narrows it down massively, what jail it was at. But I was driving towards the studio here this afternoon, and I saw a Rabbitohs bag on the side of the road. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, you know how you see a lot of... In Penrith, you see a lot of... like young teenage kids who are like Islander, and they're really big, and you're like, oh, they're playing through the grades and they're signed to Penrith. Yep. And I was like, oh, this is what that is. And I saw on the bag it said JW, and I'm like, JW? Who's JW? Jack Whiten. I soon to think of it of. I looked up. There's Jack Whiten just standing on his phone outside the jail. Obviously not in the jail. He lives outside the jail. And I just thought...
Oh, so he lives there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was getting picked up or something, but I just thought when I saw him, my day was going to be good, and Jack Whiten any time this week.
Yep. All right. Get on it.
Yeah, get on it. That is my story for the day.
I was wondering where this jail story was going.
Yeah, this jail story. Origin. How'd it go? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was rough.
New South Wales lose 38-10. I think the scoreline doesn't tell the full story.
No.
But at the same time, it's just still very disappointing.
Yeah, it's a sucky way to have lost. I think it's a sucky way to have won too. I think as a Queenslander, you'd take the win. I think we'd probably, as New South Walesmen, take the win if it was reverse situations. But I think you feel better about I'm not trying to say it wasn't fair because it was 12 on 13. We took out one of their players, one of their best players, their spine players. Yeah, they could cover it quite well, so they weren't really that affected. But yeah, it sucks. At that level of the game, like, I don't know, 10 in the bin would have been, I think, suitable. I think we've seen worse. I think it was just the way that he was out too. It's always a I think the way that how injured the player is always... And it shouldn't necessarily be, I don't think.
It was clear he was out. I think it...
You got to feel for him because he looked like he was in a real bad state too.
I think it is a send-off, in my opinion. I think in NRL week to week, that's a send-off in NRL.
Yeah, it probably is. It just ruined it.
100%. And I think for situations like that, they've got to readjust the rules. But Billy Slater coming out and saying that they're attacking Reece Walsh and it's unfair because Reece Walsh is getting targeted. No shit, he's getting targeted. Yeah. He's the best player in the game. He's got to get targeted. If he's not targeted, he's just going to run circles around people. Are you saying, Billy Slater, that you didn't have game plans to target the best players that you were up against every week? Like, it's ridiculous to come out and say that targeting Reece Walsh is a dirty tactic because it's exactly what you would have done for Nico Hines,
if the intention was
two-headed fuck.
Yeah, if the intention was, let's take Reece Walsh out of the game, that's dog. You know what I mean? Yes. And that's targeting. I think let's smash him. Let's give it to him. Let's put a lot of pressure on him. You know what I mean? Let's make him feel it. Get in his ear, body, all of that. That's what you'd mean by target him. It's not like that was unintentional. And yeah, he was slipping, and it happens. And I guess we had to pay the consequence of, that mistake. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like this, yeah, it would be nice to people throwing up the idea about maybe he goes for the game. We miss, we are without a player for 10 minutes. And we're down to 12 for 10 minutes. But then another player maybe comes on to replace. I think just for the sake of competition.
Yes.
Everyone wants good competition when there's any sort of sport.
I think only for Origin that would be fine, and for like grand finals and big games and stuff like that. It's hard to put a weird rule on it like that because sometimes
you always find loopholes. Hey.
Yeah, there's always loopholes. There's always things during the season that like. Season games are very important sometimes. Like if it's one game you need to win to get into the finals, that could be ruined by a decision like that. But could you, there's 2 games to go in the series still. Could you imagine if this happened in a grand final and decided the grand final 7 minutes in? Yeah,
it would suck.
The biggest event of the year. You watch all this footy all year leading up to this one game, and that send off decides the whole game. I think the best kind of replacement for it would be similar to what you said. I think 20 minutes, punish him enough. But, you've got a player going out there in Joey Suaalii he's picked to be the best centre in New South Wales to do the job.
Yeah.
He's out for the whole game. That's a loss for New South Wales. And they've got to bring in a player who's not as good in that position on their opinion.
If they do go with that, yeah.
And it's a risk either way because, one of these tackles could come off and Reece Walsh could have been fine and got straight back up and it still would have been a send-off. If he passed his HIA and wasn't on the ground knocked out.
It would need to be looked in pretty deeply because, as I said, there is loopholes. And, say, for example, it is the grand final and the rule is, if an illegal act like that, like a high contact shoulder to the head, your player gets sent off for 10 and then another player comes on. You're playing against the Panthers. You go, all right. You send a bloke out there who you probably weren't going to play for much. He might have even been your fringy sort of guy. He's got a bit in him, and just take him out. Just fucking take him out, and then we'll deal with it for 10 minutes. We'll manage that 10 minutes, and then we'll have someone else come on and replace you, which is probably a better thing than who we would want than you, and then we're in a better situation. So there's always ways to. And that would create headaches. Imagine if every game people were just trying to take out the best player.
That's the issue that I did see with that. But I think hefty penalties 8-week suspensions or something like that to reinforce that.
Maybe if there's more individual penalty on the player rather than the team costing it as much. Maybe the player's 12 weeks, mate, you sit out and you think about that.
Yeah.
But we're not going to make your team get as punished as much or something. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Maybe there could be a situation where the player, if the referee deems it that was you intentionally went for his head,
malice.
Maybe it could be a send-off. But I think that's probably where it gets tricky at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because
it comes down to person's opinion. And
I've heard a lot of people say that Joey Suaalii purposely.
Well, that's ridiculous because he was slipping and he wasn't even. He'd shifted his head to make contact and make a tackle. You've got to get your head in the right position. He wasn't watching for seconds before he was slipping. So
I've got to shout out Tyson Bennett on TikTok. He actually goes through the tackle frame by frame, and he breaks it down and pretty much he he breaks it down, and by the I don't know where to go on from that. Pretty much by the time Suaalii commits the tackle, that's where Walsh is. He gets the ball. I think he has 0.5 seconds with the ball until he gets rid of it. And by the time he gets the ball to the time he gets rid of the ball, like he's at a
he was
completely
going on a
different height.
diagonal sideways sort of thing too. So even where you're planning to hit him to, like horizontally, not just vertically, and how high it sort of that shifted as well too.
I'll tell you what I hate: the fact that he slipped. It would have been a great tackle. It would have been a rib tickler.
Yeah, it's tough though, because they say that that's always on the defender to.
I agree with that. That's why I think it probably was a send off.
Some of these accidents and mistakes are just going to happen, and maybe there will be a consequence that costs your team the game, even if it is an accident and just bad luck. It's luck, I guess, is a part of sport, so maybe it's something that just hangs around.
Yeah, I guess this is a very rare occasion, so we're probably thinking about too many alternatives for things that probably won't happen as much in the future anyway. But I just think Billy Slater's comments really shit me. I don't know if it's because he's a Queenslander. But that being said, New South Wales lost 38-10. Any changes you would make to the New South Wales side? I know there's obviously Joseph Suaalii who's going to be out for that game.
I've been really sort of off wanting to have Latrell on the side just because of what I think the Blues need to set a standard of, this is, people who've been playing for their club week in, week out. They've got the right mentality that would die for the bloke next to them, sort of that sort of attitude. But we're just so low on numbers now. And after and the amount of options to go to, he's clearly the standout best option. And the photo that he put up after the Blues losing, I found that shit me to tears.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, what are you trying to imply, mate? What if you were in the side, the situation would have been different? Maybe if you were playing where Suaalii was, you wouldn't have taken him out, but you probably wouldn't have been on the right anyway, so it would have been someone else. Like, what are you trying to imply? That you being there would have changed the result? And that shit me. I don't know what it was implying, but there's so much you can read into it, and he's intentionally put something up to be read into. But he's polarising, and I do enjoy characters in the game, so I don't want to be too harsh on him. But the thing is, I think we need to select him. I think especially after that crappy loss, we kind of just need to bring out all X Factor and go, all right. And that's why I think we also need to probably look at bringing Mitchy Moses in as well. I think it's harsh dropping Nicho Hynes, especially considering, down to 12 man for 72 minutes of the game. His kicking was off. He had that nice kick to Lomax where he set up the try. His bombs were just very, very shallow. There was no threat. We couldn't challenge for them. The person was catching it, just went, yeah, sweet, no worries. They weren't deep enough. They weren't close enough to the line. We were trying to get that meterage and stuff. But there was a couple of nice plays he had. There was close to the line where...
Inside ball for Spencer?
Inside line for Spencer Leno. He almost went over, and that was a really nice inside ball. Had he scored that try, maybe we're, saying, he's played well, but he just needs to improve his kicking game. And he can probably make those adjustments, but I think Mitch Moses is just so...
so well-rounded.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right word. Consistent and all. He pinpoints it very accurately. You know what I mean? So I think his kicking game's excellent. His little short side raids. I think he's a big game player too. I think he can I'm not trying to say Nico can't because he hasn't had that much big time. There's been the finals last year and then limited, in Origin stuff. But he just sort of has that presence and demands. So he sort of gallops around the park a bit like Nathan and just owns the stage.
Yeah, and I think I'd make the exact same move. Mitch Moses would come in for game 2 for me. Mitch Moses made his Origin debut in 2021, which is 3 years ago. So that was the year that Nicho Hynes started playing halfback for the first time. And I think we've got to realise, I love Nicho as a player, but are we kidding ourselves by trying to put him in there when deep?
He wasn't at the Sharks in 21, was he?
He signed in 21 and won the Daily M that year. No. No, he was at the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
He was at the Melbourne Storm. So Mitch Moses made his Origin debut in 21. Nico Hines hadn't even started playing halfback by then. So Mitch Moses has been next in line for a long time. So if anything, it's pretty harsh on Mitch Moses if he doesn't get that spot in round 2.
Yeah.
Nico Hines, I think I love him. And as I was just about to say, but you brought up a good point, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Deep in our hearts, Nico's not ready. Like, and I want him to do well, and I'm sure everybody else wants him to do well. But deep in your heart, can you confidently say he can lead us to an Origin win?
Not from like what I've seen in, that sort of in that game, but then again, like it's he was going into it with a calf injury as well, so like there's a lot of going against him. It was down to 12 men, but yeah, you don't want to make too many excuses. He did have the opportunity to get the things right that he could have gotten right and nail them on the big stage, and because he didn't really nail those opportunities as much as he could have, then I think you've got to flip it up.
I think so too.
Maybe he'll get his time again. If Jerome wasn't playing lights out at the moment, I'd probably say stick him at 5'8", but Jerome's just going too well there, and I don't think he'd be the best option on the bench if you're going to go with a back utility. No. I think Matty Burton's got more versatility. Like you don't like if there's an injury to the centres, you don't want to stick Nico on the centres after it was so harsh on him, last year. So. Yeah, so maybe he misses out, and it's tough because he did get an opportunity, but it was a pretty shitty opportunity.
He two shitty opportunities, in my opinion. Like, if he never plays Origin again, I'd feel ripped off for him, in my opinion. Personally, I don't think he's ready. I think we've got a ready-made 7 in Mitch Moses, who looks like the way Luai's playing, it's going to be between Moses and Luai for that 5'8" spot in the future when Cleary does come back. And, like, it just makes it that much harder.
Moses and Luai, or who?
Sorry, Moses and Cleary will be that partnership in the future. But the fact that Luai's played so well, you can't take Luai out of that position. Like, you can't take... I do think Nico Hines would do very well at 5'8". Like, I think he suits 5'8" for that team. But
Jerome's really got mongrel in him, though. I like that mongrel he's got.
I love it. And he's... Do you feel like the narrative has changed for Jerome?
You said that recently, and I don't know it is so much. I think maybe people are... Because people don't like him and they don't like his attitude outside of Penrith, which is... You can understand, like, from an outside perspective. We love him. And like, I'm not going to sit here and defend him to why he's not a dickhead, because I think he is...
You just got to chill. You got work tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. No, so whatever. I like him. But I forget the point. What were we going on about? Other than just like whether he's a good guy or not.
Narrative change on Luai.
Oh, yeah. So the narrative change, I think because he's playing a bit of better footy. His footy's been a little bit more... Since he's sort of... Nath being out and stuff, he's kind of, kept the Panthers afloat and sort of played well in the halves and played well in 5'8", and he's holding his own quite well. So I think maybe people respect him a little bit more, maybe, but I don't think they dislike him any less.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about mongrels, Liam Martin, how much of a mongrel was he? Like, I love that yelling. Talking about TikTok, I saw this American dude put up a thing of, I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. He's like, how good's this Liam Martin guy? He's like,
is it like the Yank does rugby league or something?
I don't know what he is, but he's like going, you can't do that in America. You can't like smash a guy and then get in his face like, I smashed you. You get sent off for that. And I just thought that was hilarious. Like just the way like he was losing his mindset, like because he was like, smashed you. Yeah, it's mad. I love him. He's a dog.
I think that's why I love Ethan Strange as well, because he's made a few tackles and he's just like, he's so happy when he makes the tackles, and it's just, I
love the blokes that get smashed and get up with a bigger smile than the guy that smashed them. They're the best.
Like Dave Fafita versus Cody Walker on the weekend.
That was good fun. Funny. That was good fun.
And like neither of them were like getting shitty at each other. It was just like real fun, and it just makes you feel warm about the game of rugby league, doesn't it? Yeah, I would probably put Burton on the bench.
Yep.
I think Olakau'atu and Young and even Gerbo played limited minutes, so I think they can put all their minutes, just put a few extra minutes onto one player, and then we
need that back there. We need him.
That solves the problem, and if Mitch Moses is getting targeted, you can just put Burton on to play off the cuff and kind of put Queensland on the back foot.
For extra kicking pressure.
Just to put that bomb up. Just come on the field.
How good was that one
minutes.
On the weekend?
It was really good. Blake Wilson was offside, but Still very good.
Yeah, that was a shame.
Yeah, it was, because I was telling my brother, because I was watching the game with my brother, Gutho is the world's safest fullback. Like, he was swallowing them up all day. The one he didn't catch where Blake Wilson was offside, nobody was catching that.
I don't think anyone else would have committed to it as much as he missed it completely, but he made a full commitment to it.
For sure.
Yeah, it was half time. He was talking to the journo as the journo's walking off, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, how about those Matty Burton bombs?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a couple of them, and that is what it is, and that's fine. I'll keep going at him." And I just liked his attitude.
I thought he did very well. I was very happy with Gutho.
Shame the King didn't get his try and his big performance. 200th game, it was all set up for him. Like last year on the King's birthday, he had a big one.
Yeah,
would have been good for him to have that moment.
Yeah, I agree. Where was
Dogs
I?
are just too good, though, weren't they?
Far out, the Dogs.
They had so much go against them.
The Dogs are doing so good. Well, actually,
underdogs.
In a chat today, Mikey was actually saying that he finds Gutho very irritating because he always complains to the refs, and I kind of argue with him a bit because I love Gutho's passion, and I know when he's in my Supercoach team, I'm like, he's right. He's right. But
it works too, because it gets the ref on their mind. Like, oh yeah, I've had a few go against him. It really plays. It's like Cam Smith was the king of that. So,
and I think Gutho, you just love to have him in your team, wouldn't you? But the Bulldogs, they're playing with a team full of Guthos at the moment. They're playing all hard,
all effort.
It's very good. So, this episode, obviously, we've just gone over the Origin changes and Origin wrap, kind of mid-season review. So we're going to go over a couple of mid-season, our awards for the mid-season, I guess. So we're going to start off with the top 4. Who do you think are going to finish in the top 4 based on where we're at the moment? Timmy.
Yep, just want to preface for all of these. This isn't something I've, done a lot of homework on. Sabs has just sort of put it on me just pre-podcast. So digging a bit deeper, I might have a few different answers. But my top 4... I'm not sure if it's in a particular order, but the order, if it was to go in a particular order, it's hard. I think the Sharks' draw really lends them to be, a good chance to take out the top spot. But maybe they could lose a couple on the way just here and there potentially. But I've got Storm, Sharks, Panthers, Roosters as my top 4. And it possibly that order, but it could change around. Penrith could possibly take the top one out. I don't know.
I've got exactly the same. The Storm have been so good, and I feel like they just haven't even hit their best yet. The Sharks, they've got one less. They've had one less bye than the Storm, Dolphins, Canberra, who are all in the top 5. So.
And none of their matchups, because we looked at it from a Supercoach point of view, are tough. They're all... You'd expect them to pretty much probably win all of them.
Yeah, I agree. I probably would have had them outside the 4 if their draw wasn't like that, because I think they have plateaued a bit. But the Sharks in 2016, they went on a 15-game win streak and then lost a few leading into the finals, and I think everyone wrote them off. They went on to win the comp. Penrith in 21... They went undefeated the whole 20 season and then lost the grand final and then went pretty much undefeated for the first half of the season and then fell off late in the season.
Did it the long way for the finals, right?
Sorry?
Went the long way for the finals.
I thought, Penrith, they've run out of gas here. Yeah. They went on to win the finals. So teams like the Sharks who start off hot and start off with this defensive mindset, I know it's gone away recently, but the platform was there at the start of the season for them to peak at the right time of the season. So I think they're just timing their run perfectly. And the tricky thing is they've had their harder matchups, so they're not going to get tested before the finals again. So the semi-finals is going to be a real big challenge for them, especially after losing 42-0 to the Panthers.
It is going to be tough, especially if they haven't been tested for a long period in a row. And then all of a sudden they get all the big boys in a row, and it's like, whoa, geez. Yeah. The line speed's a lot quicker.
Yeah. Like playing Melbourne, they beat Melbourne down in Melbourne. That was a high-intensity game. The next week, they're ready for the Roosters because that's the style of footy they had to play the week before. I guess playing Penrith the next week, they'll probably be a bit tired, but if they're going to go into the final series just putting points on teams without having to have high-intensity footy, it's going to be hard for them to do well in the finals, but I think they're going to emphasise that this is why they're plateauing at this time of year, because they banked the points early and they're going to peak at the right time of the year.
The good thing for the Sharks, though, being that they probably will make the top 4, they will get a second crack at it. So they will get, even if that first game's a bit of a shake to the system around on the finals, they might be able to adjust and sort of be like, all right, we've got to pick our game up this next game. You ideally want to win that first one, but previously they've had only one crack at it, just scraping in and stuff. So that might be in their favour.
Well, the 2 years ago, they came second and had 2 cracks at it and lost both games.
It was last year they just scraped in, right?
Yeah, they just scraped in last year and lost to the Roosters. But I think they're in a good position where they can pretty much hopefully rest all their key players just before the finals. So by the time finals come around, they'll get a week off into finals, be fresh, high intensity, get another week off if they win first, and then if they make the prelims, I think that's a win for them. They'll be hoping to go one step further, though. Daily M medal. So before it went behind closed doors, I've got some screenshots here. And it was pretty tight at the top. Dylan Edwards was on 31 points, leading outright. Nicho Hynes was second on 30 points. Daly Cherry Evans was third. Isaiah Yeo fourth on 24 points. 23 points was Tedesco and Viliami Kikau. 21, Tom Trbojevic, Zach Lomax, Pat Carrigan, Isaiah Katoa. 18 points, Scott Drinkwater at 18 points. And 17 points was Ben Hunt, Kalen Ponga, and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. Who have you got winning the Daily M at this time of year?
So I think they've been a bit generous to Kikau. He's had some good games, but he hasn't been on the like a heap. Like, he's been a bit off, and he's still like up in the mix, like 23 points, be out there with Teddy on similar sort of points.
There's 6 points available through the week, so that's only 4 good games really for him to get max points.
Well, so my guy is the top guy on the list. I think Dylan Edwards feels right. I think he's been playing really, really consistent, and he's the type of guy that's probably not going to drop off as well. He's just going to keep going with it. Because he had such a lead there, it might be hard for some of the others to jump off, and particularly while Nath's not in the side, I don't know how much more weeks. That's always an extra opportunity for him to be the star and be the best guy. And even when Nath comes back, if Penrith are winning, it's probably like 3 points, 2 points, either way. So he'll probably accumulate enough. I think he's my favourite to win. And then a Smokey, I didn't necessarily have one. I don't think it's possible for Lomax on the wing being so far out.
Fuck you. He was my Smokey, so...
Oh, go on. No, that's fine.
No,
I don't have much more to say.
Yeah, so he was on... Zach Lomax is my Smokey. He was on 21 points before it went behind closed doors in round 12. Obviously, backing up from Origin, round 14, he would have banked 6 points right there. And that puts him up right...
Maybe, but it could have also been Ben Hunt. he was just... Ben Hunt was
at worst, he would have got 4 points. Yeah. And that puts him up to 25, which is 6 behind Dylan Edwards. He's the type of player who wins the award every year. Like, look at years past. Tom Trbojevic in a Manly side who... It was based around him. There's Jack Whiten in that Raiders side. They won enough games for him to...
Has it ever gone to a winger?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, I'm not much of a historian for the Daily M's, but...
Yeah, but I think the Dragons are doing well enough to win enough games for him to bank enough points.
That was my only concern, that they might not win enough games and that could go against him when he's competing against all these others that, were... I was thinking the problem might come from a top 8 side at least. If it's not a top 4 side, but
I don't know. I think he can do it. I think Dylan Edwards is by far the best option, but I don't know. I think he's a real chance. I'm just going through the past winners: halfback, lock, 5'8", halfback, second row, 5'8", halfback, 5'8", halfback, fullback, halfback, hooker, halfback, second row, hooker. Fullback, 5'8", no wingers or centres have won the Daily M medal. Zach Lomax, are we calling it? Zach Lomax?
I'm not going to call it. I reckon Dill, but let's cheer him on.
Yeah,
not too hard because I sold him for Supercoach 2 weeks ago.
But who's your most improved team? I've got the Bulldogs.
Yeah, same.
And I think the Sharks deserve a bit of a mention, to be honest, just for making that extra step.
Yeah, no, that's a fair call. Like, they've fixed their defence up and they've been a bit more consistent against. But I think they've been thereabouts for the last couple of years, and they've only just tweaked a few things.
Yep.
Like most improved, like the Dogs are,
For sure.
kind of laughable for a while there, and a lot of people didn't give them much hope. I think they're in a lot of people's bottom 3, bottom 4.
Defensively, the second best team still.
They were judged quite heavily for their purchases, buying so many utilities, which has been pretty handy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So good on the Doggies.
And they've done it without pretty much noted front rowers
Yeah.
as well. Biggest disappointment.
I think it's pretty easy, and I think they've turned a little bit of a corner in past weeks, but the Bunnies.
I've got Bunnies. I've also got a special mention to the Cowboys. I think they've lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost. And the Wars, I think they've turned a corner in the last 3 or 4 weeks as well, but they were very disappointing for a long period of time. Most improved player, I've got Zach Lomax.
Yeah,
I know he's definitely, he's always had the talent, but I think he's by far the most improved, and
the positional switch to wing has really helped him. I think it allows him to get a couple extra tries, but just the extra carries from the back end.
he's a winger.
And the fact that he'd take 2 in a lot of the sets. A lot of time he'd catch the ball, take a run, get tackled. Most wingers, that's my go. Everyone else can have a turn now. He'd be on the third carry nearly every time after getting tackled, and loving it. So. Yeah, I guess it's tough. I think Tyrone Wishart's been really good too.
Good shout.
In the time that he's had to step up. He was a kind of a guy that when they've had him in the last couple of years to fill in at half or fullback or wherever it may be, he's been very handy to plug in and around. Not they put him on the wing sometimes. You're kind of that's their weakness, and he doesn't really. He's not going to contribute too much, but this year he's
really contributed.
Yeah, hard.
I agree. Isaiah Katoa deserves special mention as well. I think he was on the Dally M
under the radar.
Dally M medal as well, but I think just with him, it's probably not most improved. It's probably just his age is showing. He's starting to he's growing with the game, I guess.
Yeah, he's kicking games, getting a lot better. Yeah, he's making a lot better choices, and he's just commanding a bit more presence on the field as well.
Best signing?
Stevie Crichton, I think, was the one I could come to off the top of my head. I feel like there's probably another couple. I was remember in the pre-record, I was struggling to think of new signings. When you say the word new signing, I'm just all the things that float next year. Yeah, so I was trying to, because we've had a good 12 weeks, I'm trying to think. The first one that came to my head was Jack White, and he's obviously not been the best buy so far. But throw some other names out there. Let's throw some other names.
Well, I think a lot of them being kind of injured. So Jack White, RTS. There was Tom Flegler, Herbie Farmworth. I think Herbie's been pretty good. There's been Zach Hosking.
Herbie hasn't got a lot of time on the field, and if Flegler's the same.
Luke Brooks.
Brooks is one.
I think Brooks has been solid.
Yep.
But I think by far Stephen Crichton, he's had the biggest influence on the team. If the Bulldogs are the most improved, then he's got to be the best signing because it just coincides with him. Smokey from outside the 8 to make the 8. I've got Manly. I think they can get in there from outside the 8. And I think the Wars are a top 4 side on their day, so they can get in there.
They're the 2 sides I've got, but to be fair, they're coming 10th and 11th, and there's only you know what I mean? So I don't think it's that smoky, and I think there's a good chance that they come in. When they're on, Manly and the Wars are on 15 competition points each. And then there's a block of sides on 16, which is, the Dragons, the Broncos, the Dogs, and the Roosters. And looking at the top 8, as much as I think the Dolphins have been, good and better than expected, it's amazing that they're actually in the top 4.
It feels like they're going to fall out, eh?
Yeah, I feel like they're a side that could potentially drop off. But then the Wayne Bennett factor, I think he's had 2 years here. I think he wants to get... I feel like it'd be a really good goal for him to have got them to make the final. So I feel like there's still a good chance still. And then I look at another side, and that's Canberra. They're kind of like the Finns. They're just gritty, and they stay in games for a lot of the time. They can get smashed occasionally, but they both That they're the two sides I'm kind of like, and then I guess you can chuck the Dogs up. But when I look at the Broncos who are coming 8th, I think they've got to be a certainty. There's an outside chance that maybe shit could just go wrong for them with a couple of more injuries and, losing a couple of tight ones here or there. The competition is so tight around there. Maybe they do drop off, which I'd hate to see because I'd really like the Penrith Broncos grand final again.
Well, on our preview, I tipped the Broncos to miss the 8, so it's looking like not a terrible tip at the moment. All right, that's it for the mid-season review. That's a on the burst review, a rapid review. I've got a little quiz for you. So this is based on this year. So there are 3 top try scorers in the comp on 11 tries. Name one.
Top try scorers on 11. Oh, fuck. You got me stumped here. Dom feels like he's missed a few. I'm struggling. What do you...
The 3 top try scorers are Mike Acevo, Tommy Talau, and Sania Turuva.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked the first 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even picked Turuva.
Yeah.
He did go well for a bit when he was on the right and Nathan was playing.
Yeah.
Like, they would get girls a lot of tries there.
Yeah.
But then again, thinking about it a bit closer, I probably should have thought of Tommy Talau just because of how much he's risen in Supercoach.
They're waiting.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many tries has AJ scored in his career?
They said it recently. I don't know.
He's equal with Billy Slater.
I don't know. I'm going to be well off.
190. 2 players have made 25 errors and are the highest in the comp. Who are they?
Ooh, errors. Reece Walsh?
No. Lomax
He'd be
and
close.
Grinky.
He'd be close.
Who has the most tackles in the comp?
Most tackles? First thing that comes to thoughts, maybe like Cam McInnes.
No, he's not even top 5.
Who we got?
Reed Marnie is clear by 100. 654 tackles. Cotter, Trebojevic, Kenny, and Brayley are the next ones. And who was the top try scorer in 2019?
Oh, it's a Desi Creek year.
You won't even coincide that with Desi, but
No.
just think of who's the top try scorer every year.
I was probably just going to say AJ.
He was 23 tries. Next best was Kyle Feld at 19. And last one, with Stephen Crichton being the most influential signing of the year, I want you to say, who is he better than? So, Stephen Crichton or Isaac Tungo?
Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Ruben Garrick?
Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Will Penasini?
Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Joseph Suoli'i?
Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Matt Timoko?
Timiko's good, but Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Katoni Staggs?
Stephen Crichton.
Stephen Crichton or Val Holmes?
Oh, I feel like Val's a bit more proven. I think currently though, like for sure, Stephen Crichton, his defence is off its guts, and his attack's good.
Stephen Crichton or Joey Manu?
Which is a tough one because Joey's exciting. He's got a lot of upside and pizzazz, but he's a lot of an individualist too, and maybe doesn't all. Yeah, I'm going to go Stephen Crichton still.
Stephen Crichton or Reece Walsh?
Yeah, Stephen Crichton. Stephen Crichton still.
All right, well then
he's my guy. I think he's the best centre in the comp at the moment.
I agree. All right, well, cheers for tuning in for this week's episode of On The Burst. We'll catch you next week, and good luck with your footy this week.